Okay, everybody, I am told by my sources that we are now live. So welcome everybody to the kickoff red carpet for the Salem Literary Festival 2020. Not only are we not vanquished by COVID, we are here to have a really dang good time. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Jenna Blum. I'm going to be your MC this evening. I am a best-selling author, and I'm also the co-founder of A Mighty Blaze, which is powering the festival this evening and streaming it. And I was grateful to be a participant at Salem maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and probably did something bad and therefore was not invited back except in this capacity. But I'm really glad to have snuck my way in. This evening, we're going to be talking to our fabulous festival organizers who will tell you a little bit more about the festival in case this is your first year instead of your 11th year. Welcome. And we're going to be talking to our authors on the red carpet, or if we're really lucky, we will see them at home. We're going to be doing lifestyles of the lit, like the literary and famous. We get to see everybody in natural habitat. And I'm going to introduce you to some of our authors and ask them who they're wearing, which, you know, maybe in Zoom is like Mucklucks and Lululemon. And who they're reading and what their panels and events are going to be like this weekend. I just want to say also that for those of you who are new, and I'm going to turn it over to our festival hosts for a little more information on this, but this is a 3-day festival. So we have this evening our keynote presentation with Kiley Reid, introduced by our beloved Brunonia Barry, who I know has been such a staunch supporter of the festival for many years. And then we have a children's hour tomorrow. We have a full day of adult panels. And then we have Sunday, or like Sunday, like YA lit all day. Yay. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to ask Diane, who is one of our festival hosts, to tell you a little bit more about Salem Literary Festival. Diane, can you tell us, you're muted at the moment, but when you unmute yourself, tell us about your fabulous boa, first of all. And also, I want to hear the origin story of the festival. Like, who started this amazing tradition? Tell us about this year.
Oh, sure. Well, I think I should tell you about what's been going on this year in terms of planning. Brunonia Barry can tell us a little bit more about the origins of the Lit Fest. That's before my time being part of this, so we'll leave that to her. This has really been a labor of love. We started planning for Lit Fest 2020 in December of 2019. And we all got our heads together and decided, you know, which author would be good to have and who goes best with who. Should we group it this way? Should we group it that way? All set to go. A Lit Fest, you know, people there with their books and signings. And then in March, we all know what happened. And we had to do a total pivot. And so far, we've been really thrilled with the way it's been going. Our first event was last night with Chris Bergelian and Jim DeFilippi, and they were wonderful. And it was just a great way to begin our festival this year. And we're delighted with all of the authors that we were able to get. And of course, it being virtual, we could ask someone who was in California or Pennsylvania, and we weren't thinking about lodging and transportation and, you know, all the extra things that go in with a festival. So in some ways, this has been a good thing for the festival. I'm not, you know, certainly not suggesting that it's a good thing in general, but for us, I think this has really opened our eyes to the possibilities of a virtual literary festival. And so far, as I say, it's going great.
I'm so glad to hear that. Notice also, those of you who know me will know that I would like run over somebody with my car to get to a mic. So I actually have a mic tonight, even though I don't really need a mic, but it's so red carpety. I had to hold on to this last vestige of IRL, even though, as you pointed out, Diane, the festival has been expanded, as many literary events have been, because we can invite readers and writers from all around the world, and we're not limited by geography. So although nobody likes COVID, like nobody wants COVID, and COVID can go now, it still has enabled us to jump across some new frontiers, and I'm super grateful for that. So thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit? I'm going to unmute you once again, or make you unmute yourself, to tell us a little bit about what's coming up this weekend. I gave a little thumbnail, but maybe you can dangle some tidbits for us.
Yes, and I'm actually very excited. I'm going to be introducing some of these. So, starting tomorrow, we have the adult author panels. We start with Reckoning with Faith uh, with Elena Dillon, Mimi LeMay, and Megan McLean Weir. Yes, oh, I love the wave. And next at 11:30 is Writing My Life with Calvin Hennick, Grace Toulousan, and J.D. Scrimger. At 1 o'clock, it's Giving Stories Voice, which is our audio panel, we like to call it. Aaron Mankey of the Lore podcast and Sarah Shekels, voice actor, and the moderator is Matt Fillion, who has written The Dungeon Crawlers, among others. At 2 o'clock, a conversation, Writers Writing Writers, which is two writers who are writing about writers. So it's in the title. Emily Henry and Laura Zigman will be joining us for that at 2 o'clock. And then at 3 o'clock, Meet the Debuts, and that's exactly what it is. These are seasoned authors, but these are their first novels. And having read both of them, it's hard to believe these are their first novels. They're both wonderful. Elizabeth Ames and Alexis Shakin. 4 o'clock, Reclaiming Identities. Adrian Broder and Jeffrey Colvin and Marjan Kamali is our moderator. And then there's a little break and there's an evening conversation which will wrap up the adult panels. As you mentioned, we have YA on Sunday. Joseph Finder and Hank Philippi Ryan, who is also a friend of the Salem Lit Fest, will be in an evening conversation at 7 o'clock. So we're chock full of adult panels and conversations tomorrow, and I can't wait.
Good. Thank you so much. I love this. And I love that you have a whole day of young adult fiction as well, because it's such a popular thing. And where did you get your boa?
Oh, I wish there was a better story behind it. This, I think, was a school project for my daughter who had to dress up as a flapper in second grade. Just to give you some perspective, she is now 33. So it's been around.
That is a great story. I don't think there's a better for a boa out there. It's much better than, oh, I went to Michael's, like in my mask, buy it. So, well, you have a boa with history. Thank you so much, Diane. I love it. Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to be ushering some of our authors into the keynote by talking to them on the red carpet. And the first one up is Jeff Colvin. So Jeff, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm like, where are you? There are so many screens of fabulous authors here. Where are you, dude? There he is. How are you this evening, sir? And where are you joining us from?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me. I'm actually in upstate New York, although I'm in the midst of packing up to move to Providence, Rhode Island on Sunday. So I'm in the midst of moving. And so I was able to grab something from my bag, though, to put on for the red carpet. So I quickly ironed it so to be presentable today. But upstate New York is where I am now, about 3 hours north of New York City.
Okay, excellent, excellent, good. And so you're not in an area where the sky is like aflame and ashes falling from it, and you look more than eminently presentable, like you look very distinguished.
Oh no, actually it's quite chilly here. The temperature has dropped precipitously. So.
Yeah. Salem could have gotten somebody like really glamorous from France or something to MC this festival, and I'm sitting here in Boston, but it's a little bit chilly here too. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing tomorrow? We want to hear about what you're doing at the festival.
Yes, it's about reclaiming identities. It's about my novel, which is actually set in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's about a small Black, it's about 3 generations of one Black family that immigrated to Halifax from a number of sources. It's sort of the community called Africville, but the title of the novel is Africaville. But it's about 3 generations of one family. And on the mother side, it's Jamaicans who came into Halifax in the 1790s. And on the father side, it's a bunch of Southerners who came up from the South and all formed communities in Halifax. And so it's a little bit about that, the novel. And so I'll be talking a lot about it, more about it tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you. Africaville, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. You know, I'm going to make everybody say the names twice and 5 times, and to hold up the books if you have them would be fabulous. Thank you. Welcome so much. And I told everybody I was going to go in alphabetical order because I'm a writer and I'm a geek, but I'm now not going to because Matt Fillion has a friend, like a +1 with him who I need to ask about. So Matt, if you would unmute yourself and introduce us to your date this evening, that would be amazing.
I was going to say, what am I wearing? I'm wearing a terrier because he wouldn't stop barking at the neighbors. And I'm like, you are not going to interrupt the red carpet, little man. So yeah, so let me pull him up here.
He absolutely
Local
is.
celebrity.
He is. He could have had like, a rhinestone collar, like a skull and crossbones or something. What's his name?
Oh no, this is Watson.
Watts, of course. Is he named after the Sherlock Holmes Watson?
Oh yeah, I was really hoping we get get him trained to say, "Come along, Watson," and that didn't work. But he's but yeah, he's making a guest appearance because he couldn't stop himself from barking at the neighbors as they were setting up for dinner next door. So
excellent, right? I know my puppy, the shamed puppy who ate my fascinator, is now a dog sitter far away. So I feel you. And I think one of the great things about Zoom is how mysteriously beings flicker in and out. Like Jess and JD Scrimger just said, he can make himself invisible. It's true. So he has obviously magical powers that we can all sort of partake of in this brand new world. So thank you for bringing him as your guest too. I should say, somebody pointed out in the chat that he appears in your novels, and I wanted to just let the audience know, if you have questions for our authors, please put them in your Q&A if you're watching the webinar, and I will be looking at them and passing them on to our authors, including Kiley after her keynote presentation. And if you're watching out there in Facebook land, please put questions in the comments because our Mighty Blaze liaison will be feeding them to me. So sorry, that was a long little commercial in there, but thank you for coming in. Thank you for meeting Watson. And what are you going to be doing this weekend? Please tell
I will be moderating tomorrow's panel, the audio panel, with Aaron and Susan, and looking forward to it because I was actually the moderator on last year's panel and it was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing what new developments have happened in the pandemic world for listeners and readers of audiobooks. So
that's excellent that you have like a follow-up to a sequel. Like you're doing a sequel panel, which I think is a new thing. So but I'm so excited to see that. Jim, you are up next. And I know that you had a great Chris Bajalian conversation last night. If you want to fill us in on how that went, that would be great. And also, like, I love your flower and your lapel. Where did you get this?
Oh, thank you. It's the last geranium from my flower box, and it's barely holding on. I don't think it'll make the entire show tonight, but we've got a few little strands left. No, Chris and I like to say, dug coal together in an Elmore Leonard phrase. We started out as writers together in the 1980s, and I hadn't talked to the guy in maybe 10 or 15 years. So it was great catching up, and the reception was just great. People really seemed to enjoy it. And we enjoyed ourselves. We had a good time.
Good. So what is your longest running Chris memory, like your oldest Chris memory?
Oh, gee, the guy is amazing. He's not only brilliant, but he's so dedicated and he's smart. He's just smart. That's all you can say about him. I remember having a hamburger with him in a little diner called Libby's Blue Line Diner in Colchester, Vermont. This was in the 1980s. And somehow the discussion got around to baseball, and I mentioned the Montreal Expos, who were neighbors of us then, and Chris said, "Oh, it's a shame about the Expos, they're gone." I said, "What do you mean? They're doing fine. They've got a nice stadium, et cetera, et cetera." Next season, they were gone, and that just shows you Chris has his finger on the pulse of everything. His next book is going to be about 1500s witchcraft, which I think we in Salem are going to appreciate, and he sets books in the present, in the past, first person, third person. He's an amazing guy. So I had a great time catching up with him.
He is, and I'm so glad to hear that. I hope his ears are burning. And for those of you who missed it last night, Chris Bajalian and Jim were having the conversation. This is like our Chris who wrote Sandcastle Girls and Midwives and The Red Lotus most recently, which also was prescient because it was about a pandemic. So a little known fact about Chris, in addition to being a novelist and a bicyclist, he's also a psychic. So thank you, Jim, as your story points out about the Expos. So thank you. Elena Dillon, you're up next. So if you unmute yourself, you are unmuted already, lady. How are you this evening? And where?
My finger was waiting on the mouse.
You're like, I'm ready. Let me on the carpet. Let me out there.
Yeah, it's such an honor to be here. Thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to talk to you, Jenna. I've been really admiring of all the Mighty Blaze effort that's been happening throughout the pandemic. So thanks for all that.
Oh, you're very welcome. We have way too much fun over there. You don't even want to know. Like, there's a lot of bearing, but there also is like way too much fun. So thank you. So what are you wearing around your neck? It looks like you have like newsprint or a book. Like you have a book.
Yeah, it's Jane Eyre. So I'm wearing Jane Eyre tonight. Yeah, it's like one of those lithograph scarves that you probably get like Facebook ads, and I'm a sucker for all my social media advertisements get me every time. So yeah.
This might be my first like actual approval like insomnia buy, right? Do you do this too? So at night I'm scrolling through Instagram. I'm like in bed scrolling through Instagram, which you're never supposed to do. Like that's when I buy all the things. And then I forget. And then, 4 days later, there's something that arrives in the mail, except it's not anything as cool as a Jane Eyre scarf. I mean, you got like literally sucked in. So
yeah, my sucker time is like 7 p.m. after I put my son, 8 p.m. maybe. I've had a glass of wine, my son's down before I go to bed at like 9:30. That's when they can get me.
Dude, I think you're slaying, because after 7 p.m. when I have my glass of wine, I go on Twitter and I like troll, politics. So you are so winning, much more literary. Tell us what you're doing tomorrow. Or on
I'm participating in the Reckoning with Faith panel. It's the kickoff at 10 a.m. My novel, I brought the book, is Mercy House. So it's about a nun who was investigated by the Vatican for breaking church doctrine and how she operates her women's shelter in Brooklyn. But the two women participating with me all approach religion from very, very different angles. So it should be a very interesting conversation.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And writers, I challenge you to all hold your book up multiple times while I'm talking to you if you have it. I know that under normal circumstances, if you were on the red carpet, you would not be able to just like reach off to the side and hold up your book, but please do. We want you to promote yourselves as much as possible. Like, this is coming from like a total social media promotional hoe. So thank you for doing that. And we can't wait to see your panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
I.W. Gregorio. Am I pronouncing your name right? I am so like,
call me Eileen.
I know you told me I could do that in the green room, but I need to ask about this. Like, I love the initials thing. And so I'm wondering, when I was like stalking all of our writer participants before the festival, I thought, is I.W. a man or a woman? And what is that the reason that you have a sort of writer alias?
Well, so the real reason, so like Rajani La Rocca, I'm a doctor in real life. And so at that point, and actually currently I'm still a full-time physician. And my first book was actually a novel, kind of edgy novel with an intersex main character called None of the Above. And at that point, I kind of wanted to separate my physician life with my YA author life, so as it were. And my pen name is my initials, my real initials, and my married name. So my daughter can look at the book and say, this is my mom, without people think she's lying.
That's so great. Thank you. I didn't think about that. I was thinking about a sort of like gender thing. Like, I know a lot of my writers adopt this sort of neutral gender thing, and what kind of physician are you?
I'm a urologist, and you can insert the joke here. So.
I wish I had known that beforehand, because I would have come up with something like really foul, but maybe the festival organizers are really grateful that
don't worry. I'm the last panel of the day on Sunday, so got plenty of time to come up with your questions, both urologic and non, and by that point they can't really kick me out. So
is it okay if all of the audience comes with urology questions as well as
I welcome it.
Literary questions?
Yeah, I welcome it.
I think this is like a casualty of the job, right? When you just be like, I get up in the night 8 times. Okay, I'm not even going down this path, but thank you so much. And do you have your book on hand?
So this is my debut novel, the one about the intersex character, and this is My Brain in Love. Was my next book baby, which I neglected my children to write, and it's a happy book about mental illness across cultures. And it has a Nigerian American boy main character and an Asian American girl main character, and they both have a poorly diagnosed mental illness, and it's about navigating friendship and love while also navigating your own brain.
That is amazing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. This is Your Brain on Love. This is My Brain on Love. This is Your Brain on Love. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't quite see, but if you could.
I get to hold it up again, right?
My Brain in Love. Thank you so much. I did not want to get that wrong. And I think we just had on The Blaze, Yag Ghazi, who talked about her new book, which is also delving into the subject of how the perceptions of mental illness are different across cultures. So the more exposure we have to this, the better. I really appreciate this. I can't wait to see your panel. Thank you so much for being here. Love this. And next up, who is it going to be? Calvin Hennick, my friend. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How you doing, Jenna?
I'm good. I'm good. And you got yourself onto the red carpet and you are looking swank, my friend, I have to say.
So this is a fake leather jacket I bought on Amazon for $47. So that's why I look
Awesome.
so fabulous. Yeah.
Awesome.
This is my book. I have it. It's disappearing into the background, but
it is. If you can hold it up like
there we
right
go.
in front of your face, it will be like a very
There we go. I don't know how this works, but anyways, it's called Once More to the Rodeo. It's not going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a memoir, and I'm doing a panel with Grace Toulousan, who's also on the Zoom right now, and JD Scrimgeour, who's going to be moderating, is also on the Zoom.
Awesome. Thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about Once More to the Rodeo, which I have a little bit of scoop about, but not everybody knows what it's about. It's fantastic and very timely.
Yeah, thank you. So it's a memoir. It's about a road trip that I took with my young biracial son back to my small hometown in Iowa back in 2016, which ended up being kind of an important, pivot moment in history. And really, with the socio-political stuff all surrounding that, really, it's more about trying to figure out how to be a good man and a good father, especially, in sort of uncertain times.
Thank you. And have you been back to Iowa since then?
I was supposed to go this summer for my 20th high school reunion, and that didn't happen. And I was supposed to see family instead. I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but my grandmother who raised me, who's a major character in the book, died of COVID last week. So it's been really tough.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of complicated feelings, but yeah, that's where we are right now.
Yes, and terrible to have to do like a Zoom funeral. Like it's okay to do like a Zoom literary event because we can expand.
Nope, that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to like bring us down here.
No, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that because we can all be with you in solidarity and like send you some love. That is really hard. And thank you especially then for being here with us tonight and for being here with us this weekend since you have to deal with a family tragedy. Thank you, Calvin. And Calvin's book.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Oh yeah, of course. And swank jacket. And Calvin's book is once again to the rodeo, which I encourage everybody to read. Marjan, my love, where are you? Unmute your fabulous self, please.
Hi, Jenna.
Hello, how are you this evening, Ms. Moderator?
I'm doing really well. I'm so excited. I'll be moderating the panel with Jeffrey Colvin and Adrienne Brodeur, and their books just have me thinking about them all the time. So that's always a good sign.
It is a good sign, and in a good, happy, engaged, bite down sort of way, I imagine.
Yeah, like in a very also stunned way, like, wow, how did they do that? And I wish we had 10 hours to talk, but we are going to do as much as we can in 45 minutes.
I have every confidence you will smash all the interesting stuff in there, all the crucial, interesting stuff. I think this is one of the casualties actually of the Zoom world is that when I get a chance to talk to so many fellow writers, I get really into it. So all my interviews for The Blaze are supposed to be 45 minutes and people are like, Jenna, you're at an hour and 52 minutes. Nobody cares this much about writing, but we do, right? Like we get really jazzed about
Yeah, we really do. And we're going to stick to the time, but it's good to be this jazzed. I think that's one of the benefits, if there is a benefit to this horrific time, is the ability to connect with people that I normally would not have, been able to see virtually on a Mighty Blaze through here. So that's awesome. Can I tell you what I'm wearing?
Would you please? Because I was going to ask. And also that you could hold up the cover of your book, not just the cover. The stationery shop we love.
I don't have I have this big fat poster, which I put behind me for book clubs. But it's not about me this weekend. So I have Wild Game and I have Africaville down there. So I will show all of that tomorrow. But I'm wearing my sister's hand-me-down cardigan. We swap clothes all the time. And I believe before this, my mother wore it. So I just wanted you to know there's a lot of glamour here tonight.
There is, and there's family glamour. It's like family glam. I love it. So a lot of us wearing stuff on the red carpet tonight are wearing things that have personal meaning, which I love. See, this is a COVID invention. Otherwise, we would all be wearing like Dolce & Gabbana. Who cares, right? I mean,
Yeah, I do normally wear that, but now I'm just switching.
right? We have the terrier, we have a boa that's like 30 years old. We've got your whole family with you, holding you. That is fantastic. Thank you. So happy you're here. So happy to see your smiling face. Marjan Kamali, her book is The Stationery Shop, which you won't see too much because she's too modest. And she's like, I'm just a moderator, but she's never just a moderator. So thank you. Rajani, you have been outed as a physician/writer, and I would love to hear more about that. So if you would not mind unmuting yourself, my dear, and
Sure.
telling us, how are you this evening? Who are you wearing? What is your panel?
So I'm wearing Ann Taylor Loft.
Yeah.
And this pendant here, which says, though she be but little, she is fierce, which is a quote from A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was the inspiration for my debut novel, Midsummer's Mayhem. Woo! She's like floating in the air there. I don't think you can see her. Which can be described as A Midsummer Night's Dream meets Cupcake Wars. It's middle grade for 8 to 13-year-olds. And tomorrow I'm going to be reading my debut picture book called 7 Golden Rings. Let's see if we can put that up there. There we go. And that's set in ancient India, and it involves a math puzzle. And there's an author's note that kind of describes the basics of binary numbers. So how's that?
That was cool. Thank you. And I love the pivot from your pendant to like the Shakespearean pendant to the children's book to what you're going to be reading. And is this at 10 a.m. when you're going to be reading?
It is.
Okay, good. See, I'm also psychic.
7 Golden Rings.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Love it. And what kind of physician are you?
I'm an internal medicine physician. I'm a primary care physician. I am everybody's mom all the time.
Okay, good. So I'll come to the 10 a.m. panel with like all of my quotidian, my questions. So I definitely am going to come and ask you all the questions. And Elaine says she didn't get to talk about her headpiece. So I will circle back to you, lady, I promise. But thank you, Rajani. And I want to ask Nandini, like who she is wearing tonight and how she is this evening. So Nandini, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm terrible at this, but you're muted, my dear. But if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and telling us how are you? Where are you? Yes.
Yeah,
perfect.
so it's a Nandini, so you were close.
Nandini, and I'm so
That's
sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
So I'm wearing one of my favorite book dresses. It's by ModCloth. So,
yes.
Yeah.
We love ModCloth, and
yeah, they have so many bookish outfits, and this is one of my favorites. So
yes.
I'm wearing my mom's earrings.
Oh,
so
earrings. I would like to see the earrings a little bit more closely. Can you pull back your coif?
Here you go.
Excellent. Thank you. And tell us about your panel tomorrow.
So my panel is actually on Sunday. It's with Eileen. So we are closing out the festival via the last panel, and it's Why Contemporary. It's with Eileen and Leah Johnson. And my book, since you said picture book, here it is.
Please. Thank you.
It's a match made in Mehndi. So if any of you have watched Indian matchmaking lately, this is a little bit of that, but in high school. And and also the paperback was out this week. So this is the paperback.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it looks completely different, but I love it. I love the art. So yeah, those are the books. That's the panel. I'm wearing ModCloth.
Thank you so much. I think you went for the most bookish ensemble so far because you have the dress, you have 2 book covers that you're holding up. So thank you. And thank you for your forgiveness of my butchering people's names.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
No, it's a special skill that I have. It's like a mad skill kind of thing. Kelly McWilliams, where are you, lady? Hello. How are you? And are you? And who did your earrings? And what are you wearing in your hair and all the things?
My husband gave me these earrings for Valentine's Day, and I just today asked him where they were from, and he told me Whole Foods. So But I like them. I love them very much. I'm the author of Agnes at the End of the World. And I'll be on the suspenseful storytelling panel on YA Day, along with Rory Power and Diana Urban and Tiffany Jackson. I think that's everyone. And it's a story about a 15-year-old girl who escapes from a fundamentalist cult, only to discover that the world has been overcome by a terrible pandemic.
Oh my goodness. So you also are prescient. And how has it been featuring a book that has a pandemic in it during a pandemic? Does it feel sort of meta, or are you feeling like sheepish, or are you like, look, I forecast everything? Like, how is that?
No, it's been very unsettling and very strange, and certainly I'll think harder about what I write about next. But it's
you did it to make this happen. You did this, didn't you? Okay, good.
No, but no, it's been a very strange experience. Certainly something I never expected. I started this book 3 years ago. So yeah.
This is the thing I think a lot of readers don't immediately intuit, which is that when you write a book, it often takes more than like a week. So that those of us who have books out about pandemics, like we didn't do it to capitalize on the pandemic. Like this is something that was in your mind like years ago, right? And so she's not responsible. I think Stephen King is actually responsible for everything that is happening in the world right now, because everything he's written about, like The Stand, about the pandemic, The Dead Zone, about politics. So you're totally off the hook, Kelly. And we are so glad that you are here joining us this evening and on Sunday. We can't wait to see your panel. Thank you. Sarah Shekels, you are up. You have a fabulous headpiece that would have been something like mine if my dog had not eaten it. It is beautiful. Where did you get this?
Well, it was from a dresser drawer. I believe it was from Halloween, maybe 2 years ago. And this top is Target, circa 3 years ago.
All right. Very good year.
And much like Diane, this scarf is a closet find from about 27 years ago. So many eras bringing the look together this evening.
Beautiful. So you have like an archaeological outfit, basically.
Exactly. That's one way of looking at it. Yes.
Yes, I love it. And I think Target, you can still get Target on Rent the Runway, but you have to be quick. You have to be quick and get in there. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm part of a panel with moderated by Matt. Also joining us will be Aaron, who is the creator of Lore, which my 13-year-old son is absolutely infatuated with, and he's been listening to it around the clock. And we've also watched that on television. So a little bit of fangirling over being able to sit alongside him this weekend, tomorrow, and hope to be able to answer any questions about the world of storytelling and how it transitions into the audio format, and how podcasting and audiobooks have some similarities and differences, and really anything people want to know about that.
Excellent. Thank you. So you're an open book.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. We're so glad to hear that. And also, you're an audiobook reader, I hear. I was going to make her do some accents, but she said that she couldn't do them on command. So maybe I'll come to the panel and ask you again.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you in a couple of weeks, I don't know if this will show up, probably not. No. Next title coming out is written by Lori Sokol, and it is a collection of interviews with women of note, and it is called She Is Me, How Women Will Save the World. And it features profiles from everyone from Gloria Steinem to Billie Jean King, a lot of philanthropists, artists, and athletes who have made significant contributions to the world. So that's something we're looking forward to seeing in audio format in just a few weeks.
Excellent. And I am not prescient like some of our panel members here this evening, but I can forecast that is going to be such a big hit. So thank you. I'm so glad you've joined us.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone else.
Alexis Slatkin, you're up. I'm sure that I have mispronounced your last name as well, so please correct me.
No, I think you did it right.
Yes.
Actually, my toddler was screaming while you said it, so I didn't hear it. So I'm just going to assume you did it right.
Yeah, I must have done it right. He was like screaming in joy because he heard his own name.
Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
Queen. Yes, Queen. Thank you. Okay, so tell us about your toddler is your +1. We were trying to get him on camera this evening. He is adorable.
Oh, no. I've put him with some ice cream, so I don't think you're going to see him.
Okay. All right. So no toddler, but maybe you can talk a little bit about your book and about your panel this weekend and who you are wearing, anything you want to share.
Okay. So I'm wearing the necklace I bought to do book events that all got canceled, and I'm wearing the earrings I used to wear to weddings when people had weddings. So it's a sort of a nostalgia jewelry situation here. My book is Saint X, and I am doing a panel tomorrow with Elizabeth Ames, whose book is The Other's Gold. And we are both debut novelists, and we talked today about what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And I think it's going to be a really fun conversation. The books like seem really different on the surface, but actually have a lot of synergy.
Excellent. Thank you. I can't wait. I love the synergy that happens when you put two authors together. It's like a whole new taste treat. I don't think I'm ever going to do an individual event again, because it's like twice the fun and half the work to talk with another author on a panel, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that we could give you a place to wear your necklace.
Thank you.
So,
any chance I get, I'm really excited. So
good. Wear it again on the panel. Dressing up is not over. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to turn the mic over to JD Scrimgeour, whose name I think I pronounced right because I heard our hostess say it earlier. So like I'm on the ball like that.
Jenna, you nailed it. And you are a spectacular host. Let me just say that.
That's so nice. I did not pay him. I did not pay him.
I just want to comment on what I'm wearing for everybody. Once I saw Jim DeFilippi was wearing a jacket and tie, I ran up to my closet and threw on this jacket. If you look carefully, you probably can see dust on the shoulders, actually. I'm hosting Writing Your Life tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. with two first-time memoirists, Calvin and Grace. Calvin's already talked about his book a little bit. Grace is coming up. They both are terrific books, which use the act of travel as a way for the authors to explore their past and their history. And I think Grace can tell you, as I said, she'll tell you a little bit more about her book. An extra bonus about both of these two writers is that both of them had their books singled out by the Massachusetts Center for the Book this year. And Calvin's book was selected as a must read, and Grace just found out that her book won the Massachusetts Book Award for memoir this year.
Grace, seriously, Grace, you are like my idol. I have a long friendship with Grace in many different striations, and I'm so happy about that. It is wonderful. I'm not surprised, and I'm not surprised about Calvin's book either. And thank you, JD, for telling us that. And we like the dust look. I mean, I thought that was intentional. Like, you know, I don't think you should ever go out again without a jacket with like a little bit of dust, like magic dust. So thank you. And we can't wait to see the panel. And this is such a lovely segue because Grace, you are up next. And so my friend, can you tell us about your book?
Sure. I don't know if you can't see it. So
Yeah.
it's called The Body Papers. And yeah, I am really honored and excited that it won the Massachusetts Book Award. I'm still can't quite believe it. So taking that in. And it's about my growing up in the United States, growing up in New England. I use documents and photographs and all kinds of material as like a jumping off point to write about different parts of my life, including having hereditary, the gene for hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, and immigration and being undocumented and growing up as a immigrant in a small New England town. So a lot of things.
It is about all the things. I know this
Yes.
because I've read it many times. It is very powerful. So I highly encourage you all to read The Body Papers. Grace and I have the pleasure of working together at Grub Street in my novel workshop. So I have this sneak peek on Grace. And I have to say, like, her voice, like I always say this in workshop, every time she speaks, I feel like I'm on NPR getting edified. Like she just has this beautiful, like very calming voice. Massachusetts Book Award, how did you find out? Are you coming from one red carpet and going to another?
Oh yes, Jenna, my life is so fabulous.
I know. All you do is just like go from carpet to carpet. But like, how did you find out about this honor?
I found out by email, I think. Yeah, and I mean, I just had to keep looking at it. I mean, it sounds so weird, but I'm still like, did I really win? So yeah, but it's incredible to know that.
You really won. You really earned it. I'm sending you a tiara. I expect to see you So thank you. I love this. So now I'm going to turn it over to Brunonia Barry, who so many of you know because she has been at the Salem Literary Festival for years and one of its biggest supporters and one of our most beloved authors. So Brunonia, are you ready for me to read your bio?
Maybe.
All right, buckle up, honey.
Okay.
So, Brunonia Barry, for those of you who don't already know her, which is nobody because everybody knows you, Brunonia, in a good way, is the New York Times and international bestselling author of The Lace Reader, which is like such a beloved read, The Map of True Places, and The Fifth Petal, which is chosen #1 of Strand Magazine's top 25 books of 2017, and a Massachusetts Book Award must read. So all y'all's are Massachusetts Book Award people, and I'm not, so I feel sad, but congratulations. Your work has been translated into more than 30 languages and has been an Amazon Best of the Month and People Magazine pick, which is super fun. A cable series, this is fascinating, based on The Lace Reader and The Fifth Petal is currently in development with NBC Universal. Fabulous. And if we were like alone together, I'd be asking you all about that for like 5 hours. Brunonia is the winner of New England Book Festival's Award for Best Fiction, and she has served as the chairperson of Salem Athenaeum's Writers Committee. And by the way, I should have said, I'm so sorry, Athenaeum. You are the one who is sponsoring this whole thing. The Salem Athenaeum is like our foundation and our rock of this festival. So thank you. And thank you, Brunonia. And also the director of the Salem Literary Festival. And she lives in Salem with her dog Barry and their dog Angel, and has just finished her 4th novel, The Island of Mothers and Daughters, which we would love to hear more about. But at the moment, I'm just going to thank all of our authors for participating in our red carpet this evening and showing up and looking so smashing. Eileen, I didn't get to ask you about your headgear, but I hope that we'll put the answer in our Facebook comments, and Kelly McWilliams' book too. I wanted to tell you all that we're popping the buy links into your books into our Facebook chat on A Mighty Blaze. So all y'all readers out there, please buy our fabulous authors' books and support them. Brunonia, I am turning the mic over to you so that you can introduce our keynote speaker this evening, our very patient and beautiful Kiley Reid.
Thanks, Jenna. Oh, yes. I promised Diane I would say a few words about the Lit Fest and the history of the Lit Fest. As you know, this is the 11th year that this has happened. There was, I think, 1 year that it didn't happen while I was transitioning. But it goes back to Cornerstone Books, which was a beloved bookstore in Salem, and to Beth Simpson. And I have to credit Stephanie Buck, who's here tonight too, because she was there at the beginning. And as was the Athenaeum. There was a while after Cornerstone closed that we were so afraid we were going to lose the Lit Fest that my husband and I jumped in for a few years and kind of ran it as best we could until the Athenaeum was able to step up. And I have to say, what a wonderful job. This is such an amazing year. And the fact that we're here on 9/11/2020 does not escape me with the year we've had and all of that means. The idea of the Lit Fest was always bringing readers and writers together. And now we're doing it virtually. And Jenna, thank you for you doing this tonight, because this has made the introduction so easy. I know I have a friend from Germany, one from Israel, and one from Australia joining us tonight. So they're coming from all over. So this virtual new world is not all bad. Anyway, this brings me to Kiley, and I really want to talk about Kiley and her book, Such a Fun Age. I was asked to read this book this summer, and I have to say I was working for 2 months on The Island of Mothers and Daughters and the TV show, and was so happy to have a moment to step away and relax on a hammock and read Kiley's book. It really has stuck with me. So of course I wanted to introduce her. This is her debut novel. She's already a New York Times bestselling author. She's a native of Arizona who now lives in Philadelphia. I think there's a story there. So Kiley, when we get to the Q&A, I'll probably ask you some questions. She got her MFA from Iowa Writers Workshop and studied with Paul Harding of Tinker's fame and our neighbor here, because I think Paul was originally from Wenham. She won the Truman Capote Fellowship while she was at the Iowa Writers Workshop. And the film rights are in development with Nina Waif's Hillman Grad Productions and Sight Unseen Pictures. Her writing's been featured in New York Times, Playboy, Plowshares, among others. And she also won Lumina's short story Flash Prose contest. So she's got quite a background. And this is, as the first novel, I have to say, I am so impressed. I'm just impressed in general. And I want to rave about it just a little bit, and I'll turn it over to her and let her tell you the whole story. So I won't go into that, but I have to say just a few things before I turn it over. It's a story that's both familiar and new. The pacing's incredible, the characters are incredible. But what I want to really say about it is it's a daring story. And I wasn't on my hammock expecting to read a daring story. I knew it was going to be entertaining because I could tell immediately. It's about race, class, and money, which is sort of a forbidden subject. And she also has dared to take the perspectives of the two main characters, one who's Black and one who's white. And I think when you do that, you had better be authentic, and she nailed it. She really did. So thank you for that, Kiley. And you had me laughing and cringing at the same time as I was reading the story. It's also a great perspective on children, and I hope you talk about that a little bit tonight too. I think it's an important book because it's great social commentary. And I think that we've proven that we learn through story. So I'm telling everyone I know to read it. And right now I want to welcome you, Kiley Reid. Thank you.
That was such a wonderful introduction. Thank you so, so much. That really means a lot to me. Finding anything that you can stick with and finish during a pandemic, I've learned is difficult. So that pleases me so, so much. And so thank you so much. That was a lovely red carpet, and I'm so excited to chat more. I will be honest and say, well, one, I'm so sad to not actually be in Salem, as I've never been, and I was really excited to go. But two, I mean, I'm so glad to be able to be a part of this. I cannot see anyone's face, so if anything goes wrong at all, just put it in the chat and I will make sure that I adjust. If I sound weird or anything, just let me know and we will make this better for you. Yeah, let's get started. Bringing up my notes here. Okay. First of all, as I said, thank you so, so much for having me. As you pointed out so well in your introduction, this is my debut novel, but I will say that this is not the first novel I've written. This is just the first good one. I hope the other ones stay away for a very long time, but this is the one that made it. And I'm sure many of the writers here feel the exact same way. So I'm Kiley Reid. My book is Such a Fun Age. It came out on New Year's Eve of 2019. I'm a bit type A. I don't know about anybody else. There's a lot of writers in here, so I'm assuming you are too. And I love knowing what's coming next. And so today I'm going to talk to you about my journey to writing this novel, my inspiration, and then we're going to talk about dialogue today. There's no shortage of dialogue in this book. I love it. I feel very passionate about dialogue. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So probably the most common question I get on book tour or book clubs or anything else is this book about you? Is this your story? How much of this is fiction? I feel like that's the question that many fiction authors get, and I totally understand that. I'm always wondering those things too. So first of all, this is a complete work of fiction. None of this has happened. There are writers who do autofiction so wonderfully, but I'm definitely not one of them. I think that other people are much more interesting to write about than myself. And it's funny because, you know, after knowing me for about 5 minutes, you'll understand that Amira, my main character, who's also an African-American woman, she and I are quite different. But I did fall into babysitting similarly to Amira, and later I became a nanny. And so my book starts on a Saturday night in September. We meet Amira Tucker. She's 25. She's a recent Temple graduate, and she is having fun with her girlfriends, even though she is very broke, and she's coming towards the end of her parents' health insurance. And so Alex Chamberlain, a 33-year-old white woman who is a blogger, calls her one night and says, "We've had an accident. We need you. Can you please come? I'll pay you double." Amira says, "Absolutely, I'm on my way," because she needs the money. And she goes to take 3-year-old Briar to a grocery store to pass the time while Alex deals with a family emergency. It is there that Amira is accused of kidnapping the child. A security guard, upon seeing a white child with a Black woman, assumes it must be a kidnapping incident. Someone pulls out their cell phone, and it's a scene that has now become familiar to us, especially this year. And from there, the book works as a bit of a comedy of good intentions. And I love plot a lot. I like turning pages, and so I don't want to reveal any more than that, but I will talk about my inspiration in my time as a babysitter and a nanny as well. So I think that many women, especially writers, find themselves working in service jobs and with children as well. So from high school to college, I had a lot of jobs. I was a camp counselor for 3 summers. I was an RA in college. I worked as a hostess at Uno's. Do you guys remember that place? Deep dish pizza. When I answered the phone, I had to go, thank you for calling Uno Chicago Bar and Grill. This is Kiley speaking. How can I help you? Which is too long, which is why I remember it now, you know, like 15 years later. I also worked at Abercrombie and Fitch for a second, which paid terribly and was not great. I worked as a magician's assistant in college for about 6 months, which did pay well. And I got sawed in half and everything. So that was kind of neat. But through all of these jobs, babysitting was consistently a service I was offering to anyone who would take me, as I love children and I felt like I was good at it. So I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and I transferred colleges when I was 20 years old. And then I went to New York City. And New York was expensive in a way that I had no idea about, and I was not ready for it. So when I was in Tucson, when I was in college, I was working at the Tucson Mall at Godiva Chocolate, and I was getting paid $8 an hour. I moved to New York City, went to a Godiva, got a job again, and I was paid the same $8 an hour in New York City. Not easy. So one night I was walking back from work to my dorm, and I met this woman randomly and her child, and we ended up talking. She needed a babysitter. She lived right across the street from my dorm. Her kid was really cute. And I said, yeah, of course. And more importantly, she paid $10 an hour. So I start babysitting for this woman. Her daughter is 6 and we get along, and it definitely helped supplement my income. So also it was amazing because I could do homework well. When she went to bed, it was very superior to my job at Godiva Chocolate. So one weekend, the little girl's mom told me, hey, if you quit your job at Godiva, we'll use you more. And I said, done. So I was so excited. I put in my 2 weeks notice at Godiva. I quit my job, and that woman never called me again. And it was awful. I was so broke. I called her again and again. She never answered. I was out of 2 jobs. And then my laptop broke. So I was in college. It was my sophomore year. I needed to write papers. I didn't have a laptop and I didn't have a job, and it was a mess. So I took my laptop to the Apple store on 5th Avenue, and I went to the Genius Bar, and the guy is talking to me about my computer and how broken it is. And I'm on the phone with my mom, and we're seeing what she can pay for, what I can pay for, if it's better to send me a broken computer that's not as broken as it was a whole thing. It was a mess. So I say goodbye to my mom on my phone, and I say, okay, yes, ma'am. And I hang up the phone. The woman next to me turns to me and says, did you just say yes, ma'am? And I said, yes. And she said, where are you from? And I said, Arizona. She had just fired her nanny. She lived 4 blocks away from me, and she paid $14 an hour, which I was like, I'm Kris Jenner now. Like, this is amazing. And that started me being a nanny. I was her nanny for 4 years, and it was a wonderful experience. She was a kind woman. I liked her kids, and I feel like that's when I learned about who I was as a caregiver. And that's when I really became good at this job that I ended up keeping for 6 years. So what brings me to Amira is the fact that I had so much confidence leaving that job. I was in a very different place than my character Amira is. Amira's 25. She is exploring the world of caretaking for the first time, and she isn't aware that she needs to set up boundaries the way that I later found out is very, very important. But more than anything, she's very much learning who she is. Something else Amira and I had in common was the fact that we both didn't have health insurance. I was kicked off of my health insurance when I was 22, and it was a nightmare. Even after I had a more stable job as a nanny, I was constantly thinking, What if I fall? What if I get sick? How am I going to pay for it? What if I need stitches? And that fear absolutely affects how you perform every day and how you arrive at work. And so on top of all these financial insecurities, you know, what led me to Amira was not only my experience as a nanny, but my time before that at all my other jobs that I listed. When I was working behind the counter at Godiva, or after I was a nanny, when I was a receptionist for 3 years, people always said to me, okay, so you're working here, but what do you really want to do? What do you really want to do? And I couldn't help but think, what if this is what I really wanted to do? This is a hard job. And what if this was it for me? Why wouldn't that be okay? There's so many jobs I clocked in and I clocked out and I went home and I wrote. And I didn't see my jobs as getting in the way of my writing. I saw them as a way of, supporting my writing whenever I got home. And so all of this is to say that I was very intrigued by the idea of a young woman who is an excellent caretaker, but also has a natural anti-careerism about her that makes other people really uncomfortable. So all of this is to say, in short, I'm not Amira. Amira is a lot cooler than me in a lot of ways. But I think every writer takes experiences that they've had and they twist them and they bend them into what's hopefully a really gripping and powerful story. So I want to switch gears for a minute and talk about dialogue. I love it, obviously. I'm sorry, I'm also seeing that someone loved Uno's in the comments. Yes, Uno's representation. But yes, let's get to dialogue really quickly. So as a writer, that is the thing that I'm constantly writing down the most when I feel inspired. If I'm when I used to go on the train or like go to a coffee shop or do fun things like that, I was constantly writing things into my phone or emailing myself, because dialogue can do such heavy lifting in a story and really shape somebody so quickly that you don't really have to do a lot of work as a writer, because what they said takes up so much space and brain and just tells you exactly who they are. And so when I write, I'm constantly writing the dialogue first and filling everything in later. I don't know if other writers do that, but I feel like watching your characters in scene, that was something that Paul Harding really taught me, was to actually watch your characters respond to things. That's how I get to know them. And I think that's how my readers get to know them as well. So I'm pretty obsessed with what people say, what they actually mean, how they shape their language, and how they create propriety around what they're actually trying to get at. And when I teach lessons on dialogue and creative writing workshops, I start from the very beginning of what is dialogue. And I work with students to explore what exactly dialogue is doing on a sentence level and how it's serving the story. So when I taught undergrads at the University of Iowa, a lot of my students did this very strange but lovely thing where they would, of course, base stories in places that they knew really well, like dorms or parties, but then the language would get really formal. And it would go something like this. Todd walked into the party. Hello, Brad, he said. Are you having fun at this party I am holding? Brad nodded and sipped his natty light. Yes, hello, Todd. Yes, I am having a good time at the party you are having inside of your house. How are you today? And I was just like, guys, what are you doing? This is not how people talk. This is not how people talk at all. I don't know what's happening, but just have your characters speaking the way that normal people would speak in everyday life, because we're going to learn so much more about them that way. And so this really inspired me to really look into what exactly dialogue should be doing, or what it can be doing. And I also wasn't really endeared to these students. I thought it was hilarious that their dialogue ended up like this. But I think that a way of shaping what your dialogue is actually doing is looking at 4 very distinct categories. So pretend that you've never heard of dialogue in your life. We're going to talk about what dialogue can accomplish. Okay, I'm going to show you 4 specific things dialogue can accomplish, and I'm going to do it through one phrase. And that phrase is, would you like a banana? This is all going to make sense, I promise. Okay. So the first thing that dialogue can accomplish is conflict. I'm going to give you an example. Would you like a banana? No, bananas are stupid. You're stupid. No. Conflict. Done. Okay, we already have a story. We know that there's conflict. Someone offers a banana, the other person doesn't want it. Done. Dialogue is what we use to symbolize that push and pull and what given circumstances heighten in a story. So immediately, dialogue you can use for conflict. That's kind of a big duh moment. Let's go to the second one. Okay, I'm gonna show you the example first before I tell you the answer. Okay. Would you like a banana? Mom, I'm old enough to know when I'm hungry. That is dialogue showing relationship and character. You don't have to go in after and say, you know, the little girl Sally felt that her mother Karen was really over. You've already done all that. You've already done all of that and established so much in character and relationship with the dialogue that you're using. I love when dialogue shows me a relationship, not by saying, you know, hello, you know, Susie, my sister, but just something that a sister would say. When those things go off in you and you hear, what are we going to get mom for her birthday? There's something that's so familiar and wonderful that it puts you in the space of sisters, and it does a lot more heavy lifting than over explaining. So that second one was character and relationship. Next one. Okay. Would you like a banana? No, thanks. I'll just take the room for tonight. Done. We're in a hotel. We're in a very strange hotel that offers bananas to all of their people, but we're in a hotel. And we don't have to spend, you know, paragraphs and paragraphs of saying where this person is. Dialogue, this is one of my favorite things to do, is showing a setting through somebody's point of view. And so the way that we talk about places, the way that we talk about places in front of people who we want to impress, those are all things that we can use to shape setting and shape the person who is talking about that setting. So third one is setting and POV. And the last one, which is probably my favorite, is this. Would you like a banana? Susan, you know I hate bananas. History. Dialogue shows history. We immediately know Susan has pulled this before. She knows what she's doing, and this is almost assault at this point. So dialogue is a place where you can refer to previous fights and you don't have to show them on the page. And without being told anything too obvious, you can establish who everyone is, where they are, and what happened the day before in the tiniest, most loaded dialogue. Those are my favorite moments. So the history that dialogue can reveal never has to be siloed to the people that it happened to. I love writing modern day people and work life and instances that happen now, but also the ones that have a really strong historical presence that makes them really complicated. My favorite types of dialogue are the ones that bring the history to the forefront, whether we like it or not. So I'm going to give you an example that actually happened. I was 22 years old. I was babysitting for this woman randomly. She had a newborn. She would just call me whenever she needed me. And one night I went over and she said, we're looking for a Saturday night babysitter. Will you be our Saturday night babysitter? So at this point I knew that I shouldn't leave jobs that, you know, are consistent. And I said, I'm so sorry, I have another gig. I can't do it, but I do have a friend named Mary who could do it. And this woman said to me, oh, we don't want Mary, we want you. Okay, tell me about Mary, sell me Mary. And I said, Mary's awesome. She's super responsible. She plays guitar. She has huge, big curly hair. She's really smart. And this woman said to me, uh-oh, wait, she's not too cute, is she though? Because I told my husband, we're never gonna have a babysitter who's too cute. You know what I mean? And you know, I don't even wanna know what my face did at that comment. I think I went like that. And then she said to me, oh no, that's not what I meant. You're super cute. And I was like, let's never talk about this again. And it was the most awkward moment I've had in a really, really long time. I went home on the train. She texted me and said, my cute comment came out wrong. And I said, no, it's fine. But the damage had very much been done. So let's talk about that moment. First of all, you have conflict immediately. She wanted something from me. I couldn't give it to her. You have the relationship immediately. I bet you could totally write this scene without saying this person's a babysitter, this person's a mom. And with that line, there is so much being accomplished here in terms of history. When you break it down, someone saying to a Black woman, oh, I told my husband we're never gonna have a babysitter who's too cute. There is so much history that goes into that line that it's almost like you could write a thesis paper on it. This history runs deep. And in about 12 words, we're recalling a history of slavery, of Black women taking care of white babies, of Black women being completely desexed, and laws against interracial relationships. It's all wrapped up in this one little quote of this woman basically telling me that I'm not a threat to her, but another woman who she's never seen might be. So I want to go even further into it and talk about what dialogue like this symbolizes. So, you know, of course, I would love to believe this is all about me, but even in this moment where she's talking to me, where this woman is telling me that she's not threatened by me, by her husband thinking I'm cute, what's really important to realize is that the person that this comment hurts are other domestic workers who don't have the power and connection and capital that I have. I mean, here's the thing. I have too much confidence in some ways. And even if her husband had told me, oh, you're not really cute, I'd be like, you're mistaken and you're wrong. But comments like these hurt the domestic workers who do not have the emotional stability, the financial stability, the healthcare that they need in order for them to move on and find families who care more about their children than they care about what their caretakers look like. At the time, I was broke, but I was fine. I didn't have children. I didn't have a chronic illness. There were so many things that I didn't have, you know, that like were a burden on me. And even then, I kept working for her because she paid well and because I liked her kid and it fit into my schedule. There are so many domestic workers who have so much less than I did. And comments like this reflect the low status position that they're kept in. And as a writer, I love dialogue and I love dissecting it and obsessing over it. But the dialogue that I'm interested in, as cringeworthy and wrong as it can be, the dialogue's not the problem. The dialogue is representative of bigger problems that have huge effects on people's livelihoods and the quality of their lives. There's a mother in my book, In Such a Fine Age, named Alex Chamberlain, and she really stresses out about saying the right thing to her babysitter and doing the right thing and looking like she's saying the right thing. And, you know, if she had done everything perfectly for Amira, she had said everything perfect and never had an awkward, cringy-worthy moment the entire time, it still wouldn't change the fact that Black women today make less than every demographic and are not believed when they tell doctors that they are in pain, and that Black women have a terrible death rate when they deliver their babies. All the cringy moments that I love to obsess over exist because of these tragic examples of race inequality and not the other way around. There's other examples of this in my novel. That's obviously because I'm obsessing over them. And I think a quick one is, there's a moment where a character looks at an interracial couple and says, oh my gosh, their babies would be gorgeous. And on the surface, you can look at moments like that and say, okay, I don't want to be a racist person, so I can't think that interracial babies are cuter than other babies. Okay, I won't do that. But what is that dialogue doing? The people that dialogue hurts is not interracial children, it's Black children. It's Black children who don't have any resemblance of a white person, from their caricature to their noses to anything else, and they aren't seen as beautiful or responsible or smart. The Black people are the ones that it hurts. I think it's so important from a student standpoint to say, okay, what is this dialogue doing? Is it doing anything, or do I need to cut it? But even when you're reading, who is this dialogue hurting? Where does it come from? If anything, it's going to definitely deeper your read of a novel and broaden the questions that you're left with when it ends. So as writers, I think it's imperative to ask what our dialogue is doing to support the events in our stories. But as people, I think it's the other way around. Asking what events have shaped the way that we speak is a more pertinent question when you're actively looking to understand inequality and the role that you play within these broken systems. That's my favorite thing to write about. That doesn't mean that your writing can't also be light, because sometimes things are funny, especially when there's children involved. And I'm going to leave you with one last story with probably one of my favorite pieces of dialogue ever. And this one also happened. So when I was 25, I wanted to go on a road trip by myself. I just wanted to prove I could do it. And so I drove to Yosemite National Park, and I was so excited. I had rented a car for the first time in my life, and I had my $25 for the park ranger. I drove up to the front, and the park ranger came out and she gave me my maps, and I went to go hand her my money, and she looked at my money and she said, actually, because it's Martin Luther King Day, you get in for free. And I probably made the same face I made before. I think I went, excuse me. And I have never seen somebody's face get more red than hers did in that moment. And then she flustered and said, no, everyone gets in for free. It's not just, it doesn't matter what they look like. Everyone I've seen today got in for, it's not just, I swear to God. We laughed harder than I've ever laughed with a stranger in my life. In one tiny line of dialogue, history of Martin Luther King Day and my race and her race, everything came flooding back in this moment that made us both laugh so hard. And of course, I haven't seen her since, but I really hope she's okay, because I've never seen a person turn that red in my life. I encourage you, I'm sure there's writers in this room, to look for those moments where dialogue is doing so much work and so much more than the limited number of words that they have, because they really delight me. I think words are powerful. I think words mean so much, but I think it's so important to remember that words are the symptom of bigger broken systems. That's the part that you need to remember. Just fixing your words doesn't fix the bigger symptoms. So I've loved chatting with you. I hope this meant as much to you as it did to me. I'm so sad to not be in Salem. Hopefully one day that will happen, but I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much. Uh-oh. Jenna, I think you're muted. I think you're muted.
You know, it's so amazing when something has the power to mute me. It like never happens, but it's Zoom. I learned so much listening to your presentation tonight, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. And as a writer, I was putting like saucy comments in the chat, because my dialogue is actually, like, it's the hardest thing for me to write, because I feel as though for me it's a fire hose. Like, my characters talk way too much as their creator. So
I love it. That's great.
and I love this, because every time I hear another writer speak, I think, okay, there are so many commonalities and there are so many differences. There's no one right way, but I am so delighted to hear you speak. I think you are like gorgeous and gracious and so inspiring and educational to all of us. And I just love the deep dive into craft. So thank you so much for doing that. I have a few questions for you, and I am encouraging everybody in the audience, if you are in the webinar, please send us questions via the Q&A button on your screens. And if you are on Facebook, please put them in the chat, because the Blaze will pass them to me and I will pass them to Kiley. So Kiley, one of our hosts actually for Salem said she's a bit confused by Kelly in such a fun age. Are we to see him as sincere or as a performative ally? And maybe you could give a little bit of grounding as to who Kelly is, like that quick thumbnail.
I can do that. Yes. So Amira begins dating a young man named Kelly. He is 32 years old. He works in coding. He's white. He has a dad-like sense of humor. He's very tall. He's very cute. They have a interesting meeting and then a bit of a one-night stand, and then they continue dating. And so I promise you, this is not a cop-out to say this of, is Kelly, you know, someone we should trust or not? He's both. He's everything. I really feel that what frees me up is to show my characters at their very best and their very worst. There are moments when Kelly kills it. He's super cute with her, and I think that he gives Amira, you know, encouragement about her job that she feels like she's not getting from her friends at moments. He's really cute. She's 25. She's not trying to get married. He's great for those things too. And then there's moments where he really messes up and really doesn't let her, or doesn't ask her the questions that he should be asking her. And so it was really important for me to feel like the reader was dating Kelly along with Amira. And that's a huge part of dating. You're like, okay, that was a little weird. Maybe, okay, no, I'm just gonna ignore that. We're just gonna keep on and see, maybe we can talk about that later. And so when it comes to racial injustice, I think one of the scary things about inequality is that, you know, those feelings of really being smitten with someone and also, you know, using them in a way that you shouldn't, they can live really harmoniously. And so I think that Kelly is definitely a representation of that. But whatever you're feeling on that page, I encourage you to feel it towards him. Yeah.
I love this answer because I feel as though good fiction is supposed to represent life, and life is complex and people are complex. So if he's too one way or the other, we might as well just all watch The Bachelor and draw our own conclusions, right?
It's
so
totally fine too. I will be tuning in very quickly.
You know, honestly, I haven't gotten through the pandemic except for watching Married at First Sight. Like, it's just, you know, it's my jam. Thank you for that. We have many excellent questions coming in, and I can tell a lot of them are from writers and from very assiduous readers. One of them is, how do you write dialogue and characters who are so realistic and yet crossing the line, in ways that are really clear to the reader? Do you think of specific people when you write dialogue?
That's a great question. I do not think of specific people, but I do interview a lot of people for my research when I'm writing. So with this book, I obviously had a lot of experience as a nanny, but I don't have children. And so it was really important for me to interview moms. And so I also think, just asking people about their lives can inform your work with other areas. And so I did interview a lot of moms, asking about their days or asking about, strange things that their children had said. Interviewing is a big part of my process. I get the cadence for the way that people speak and themes that keep coming up again. With children too, that was a big help as well. It's just writing down things that I would hear children saying. I think that all of my characters might have started from something that I overheard, but then kind of took a road of their own. Yeah.
One of the things I used to encourage my writing students to do was to eavesdrop as much as possible. And it's so nice because being a writer gives you a license for bad behavior. So I think that it's, but it's a way to tune your ear. I have a question, and I'm sorry, I know our readers have many questions, but are you a musician? Are you musically oriented? Because
I wish I was. I so wish I was. No, I will say, I think that certain people, when I've had too much to drink, I like to do impersonations and I like to mimic, the way people speak, but I wish I was not a musician. No.
Well, you're a linguistic musician, and I wish that we had a way of giving you lots of virtual cocktails so that you could do your impersonation. That would be so great. Many people, I think, are really struck by your discursiveness about the dialogue. One of our readers asked, how do you strike the balance between dialogue and scene work? I guess I would call that action in a long project. Do you map this out? This is me asking about the mapping, because this is something I'm always looking at, is this balance between, the sort of on the page scene and then exposition. So.
Right. That's a great question. And someone asked me the other day, are you a plotter or a plunger? And I think that.
What? I love it. Pantser.
I love plot heavy work. And so I definitely plot things out, but I will say, I don't know if you're the same way. I write everything out where I think everything is going, but if things go too according to plan, it's a bad sign. It's like I'm not listening to my characters, and if I'm not rewriting some scenes, or if I don't write a perspective and realize this is way more interesting from the other person's perspective, I think things have to go wrong a little bit. You have to listen to your story. But that's a great question about dialogue and balancing that out. And it just takes doing it to figure it out, which is the worst because you end up deleting a lot of scenes. There's a scene in my novel where Alex is telling her girlfriends the backstory of how she knows another person in the novel. And when I first wrote it, it was just based in the backyard where she's telling her girlfriends. And then I workshopped the novel at Ira's workshop, and pretty much everyone in the room, including Paul Harding, was like, if you were talking about this other scene so much, you have to take us there. Why are we not in this scene? You have to put us there. And so a lot of it is trial and error. And I think it's just, it's rereading over and over again and trying to listen for what the story is calling for. I obviously love dialogue, but when there's too much of it, it is a little exhausting. And so it's just reading these things over and figuring out what's the best for the reader.
Do you read your work aloud? That is the question. Again, I'm hijacking the whole conversation. Like, I want to know all of these answers.
I do. I have very loud air conditioned in my room, so I can read my writing without anyone else hearing me. So I definitely read stuff out loud. Yeah, I think it's really helpful, for sure. And now that I've been on book tour too, it's like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago, because you're going to be reading these things and you want to make sure that they flow. Yes, I highly encourage reading out loud.
I actually love to hear authors read their work. I feel as though it's so illuminating. One of the questions is about the audio book of Such a Fun Age, and the commenter said the tone the narrator used for some of Amira's dialogue was so illuminating, especially when she says okay, Alex, as if she's offered something unnecessary. And I didn't say it the right way because I didn't hear the audiobook yet. I'm sorry, but the reader is wondering, do you think the audiobook got it right? Did the audiobook get this character right?
You know, okay, so first of all, I think the audiobook was amazing. As soon as I heard Nicole Lewis speak, they sent me 3 examples, and she was just such an easy yes immediately. She's wonderful. And I feel like, you know, I feel like every writer was like the best reader in like their 3rd grade class. And so of course, when it comes time for your audiobook, you're like, oh, I could do that. And then you actually hear a professional do it and you're like, there's no way I could even touch that. And I think Nicole is amazing and she did a wonderful job. I am a big fan of letting the experts do what they do in that medium. And so I was the best writer of my novel. I think Nicole was the best like audio actress and performer of the audio. And when there's a film adaptation, I'm going to trust the experts there too. I kind of like seeing those different variations. And even though, you know, it's not how I wrote it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't fit within the world of that audio. And so I do think Nicole kind of nailed it in so many different instances. I wanted Amira's kind of like a verbal tick when she kind of goes, okay, like it's almost like a 5th grade boy, like not knowing what to say a little bit. And I think that we carry those things through adulthood. And so, yeah, I feel like Nicole nailed it. Was everything the way that I wrote it? No, but it wasn't supposed to be. And she really did a great performance.
Do you hear the characters speak in your head in their own voices in a sort of audio way, like in a voicey way?
Great question. I think it depends on what period of writing I'm in the beginning, it's trash and I don't know who's who, but by the end I feel like I get people's voices a little bit better. But it's exciting for me too to hear other people, you know, read the work and their take on it. That's all part of the fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah. So I think all of writing a book is an act of letting it titrate out into the world. Like at first it's just like we hear all the voices and then they become ours and then we give them to a publisher and then they give them to the readers and the readers sort of make them their own. Right. So I think it's such a privilege, and it's such a privilege to listen to you talk about the making of this book, which is so beloved. We have one question that is pretty easy that you may or may not want to answer. I'm wondering, actually, no, 2 questions I'm going to ask, and then we will wrap it up and release you to your evening. The first one is, where's your favorite place in Philly to write? Philly is in the house.
Yes. Okay. So here's what happened. I moved to Philadelphia as soon as I left grad school. I'd visited a lot to do such a fun age research, and we knew we were moving here. So I came here last year. So I've been here since for more than a year, since July. So since then, the pre-tour took me to Australia and London, and we went to California, Chicago, and New York in 3 days. So I was doing so much traveling that I feel like I didn't really get to see Philly the way I wanted to. And then I went on book tour for 3 weeks. And I came back and then we had the pandemic. So I feel that I should know Philadelphia so much better than I do at this point. But of course, we're quarantining ourselves right now to make sure that we stay safe. I did go and do a lot of writing at the La Colombe in Fishtown, which is great. And also down the street is Joe's, and I'm gluten-free, which is annoying but necessary. And they have gluten-free, cheesesteaks, which is amazing, which I really like. Yes, I also love West Philly. I love Clark Park area, but since pandemic has started, I've been doing more hikes. And so sometimes I go for a hike at Delaware Canal State Park. I just go by myself and walk, which is kind of nice. So hopefully I'll leave the pandemic with lots of good hiking spots. Yeah.
Yes, good hiking spots and good health, which then you can subvert by eating lots of cheesesteaks, which I'm with you there, sister. Like, I love a good cheesesteak. And you said Uno's before, and now I can think of nothing but pizza. So thanks so much for that. I think we have to wrap. We have so many amazing comments and we have so many questions. People are so plugged in, both in our webinar and also on the Mighty Blaze Facebook page. And everybody wants to talk to you, Kiley. Like, we could all crowd around you like paparazzi for the whole night, but I do have to let you go. And I myself could like pin you in place and be like the bad person at the party who asks you writing questions for hours and hours. So thank you for bringing your light and your book to us, and for edifying us and inspiring us this evening, and for being here to give the keynote speech for Salem. We're so happy.
It was lovely. I hope to see you next time in person next year. That would be amazing. You did such a wonderful job, and I loved speaking to everyone. Thank you so much. And happy.
Oh my God. I'm making like heart eye emoji at you right now, Kylie. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who is watching with us this evening, whatever medium you are on. We are so grateful that you're here making Salem bigger and better and more fun than ever. I do want to remind you guys that if you want to register for the weekend's events, which are going to be fantabulous, do not forget, please, to go to salemlitfest.org and sign up. And also to buy the books from all of our authors who I have just so adored talking to this evening. wickedgoodbookstore.com. Like, how can you not want to buy from Wicked Good Bookstore? And also bookshop.org, who's a Mighty Blazes partner as well. Thank you so much to the Salem Literary Festival for allowing me to come back no matter what I did like 5 or 6 years ago. I have enjoyed this so much, like talking to my fellow authors and seeing Brunonia and Kylie. And thank you, Salem Athenaeum, for powering the whole thing. Thank you to the Blaze. And good night, everybody. Be in good health and happy, happy, happy reading. See you tomorrow and Sunday. Bye. Bye.
That was great, Jenna.
I'm still here. I'm like, wow, I'm just looking
So
at all
much fun.
I'm so sorry I couldn't answer all the questions. We had so many questions, which, you know, is a testament to how strong this event was. I think it was so well attended. People were so enthusiastic.
Yeah, did you see the comments?
I haven't had a chance. I saw, I mostly, oh, wow, there are a lot of chat comments. I was looking at the Q&A and also like have one eye on the Blaze where we have a lot of engagements, a lot of views, and a jillion comments. Like I'm super excited about it. And Kylie is amazing. I mean,
isn't she wonderful?
Yes, I could have asked her questions about the writing process forever and totally hijacked the interview, but I decided not to do that.
Right.
Carolyn, can you stop the recording? We're still live on Facebook.
Guys. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Amazing job.
I stopped it.
Thanks, Jenna.
You.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.